Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel, The Lazy Bookworm. I'm Rebecca again as ever. How are you? I hope all of you guys out there in cyberspace are doing well. Now, for the last, I'd say month, maybe month and a half, there's been this sort of tag going around called the top 5 English novels. And the tag was started by Karl Anderson on his channel with Sarah from Hardcover Hearts. And this has resulted in lots of my fellow booktubers doing videos outlining their top 5 English novels. Now, of course, as you probably can guess, that's a very broad scope to choose 5 novels from, like, say, the English language or from England. So not surprisingly, people have sort of put their own spins on it, or you can maybe say their own restrictions. I think Michael K. Vaughan did one on his top 5 translated novels, which was really interesting. And Another Bibliophile Reads, he did one called the top 5 American novels tag. So I thought in this video I'm going to do 2 lists in one, so you get two for the price of one. I'm going to do my top 5 English novels and my top 5 American novels. Now, just if you see me a little distracted and if you hear the sound of purring, my cat Karl is on my knee, so that is why. Now, without further ado, here is the first list, my top 5 English novels. These are in no particular order or ranking and stuff like that. My first one, okay, some people could say I'm slightly cheating because this could be considered a bit more of a novella, but my first one is George Eliot's Silas Marner. It was a tough one to choose between that and Middlemarch, but the thing is, I actually haven't finished Middlemarch yet, so this is the first Eliot book I read and I really love it. So anyone who knows me will know that it is one of my most favourite books, just period. Number 2 is And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. One of her few mystery novels not to feature Hercule Poirot or Miss Marple or Tommy and Tuppence, or yeah, so it's basically, just in case you haven't heard of the plot, it's basically about a group of strangers who are called by this mysterious man who supposedly knows all of them to this island. Soon they discover that this mysterious man has very dark intentions for all of them. And without giving too much away, it becomes very much a sort of game of cat and mouse. 3 is Animal Farm by Eric Arthur Blair, otherwise known as George Orwell. A novel, it's a very small novel. I know Animal Farm is a very small novel in terms of pages, and again, like Silas Marner, it could probably be considered a novella, but hey, I like small novels, what can I say. I was tossing up between this and 1984, but I chose Animal Farm for 2 reasons. One, I actually like it a little bit better than Animal Farm, personally. I mean, excuse me. I was tossing up between Animal Farm and 1984, and I love both books, but if I had to really choose, I would probably say Animal Farm is the one I like the most. Also, Animal Farm is actually the first book I ever read by George Orwell, so there's a little bit of sort of sentimental nostalgia connected with that. So that's why I chose Animal Farm. Animal Farm, for all of you guys who don't know, is sort of like a fable, I guess. It could be considered like a fable. And it is about these animals that live on a farm and they're treated cruelly and they rise up and revolt against their cruel owner. Third book is a book I've already mentioned before on this channel, and that is Notes on the Scandal by Zoe Heller. This is a relatively recent book compared to the other books I've mentioned so far, and it details the sort of very, you could say, extremely toxic relationship between two teachers at the school. Two female teachers, one's older, one's like slightly younger. Unlike the other ones, I have only read it once, but I guess I put it on this list because even today it kind of I still think about it quite a bit sometimes, you know, like how some books, that happens with books, even if you read a book once, sometimes a book really stays with you, and that's what happened with that one. And it sort of just raised a whole lot of questions about sort of friendship, about boundaries, about all sorts of things. So yeah. And the last one is Terry Pratchett's Hogfather. Now, the thing is, with Terry Pratchett was a sort of sci-fi fantasy comedy writer. He died a couple of years ago. Hogfather is one of many books in the Discworld series. I'm not quite sure if the Discworld series is continuing now that Terry Pratchett has died. I know that sort of towards the later years he'd actually would co-write it with another person, so I'm not quite sure if the series is still going. But if you like fantasy, and also you like a really good laugh, and especially if you really like the sort of absurd British humour, I would say any book from the Discworld series is good to go. For me personally, I would say you can just choose one in the sense at random, like you don't have to read them in order. I never did. I think it does help because you get reoccurring characters, so you sort of think, oh, okay, this is where sort of this person started, kind of thing. But for me, I think I started sort of, in the middle, I think. These are my top 5 American novels. Now, unlike Another Bibliophile Reads, I have given myself the major restriction that all of these books are from the 20th century. So I have not got any from the 19th century. So, for example, one of my favourite American novels is Moby Dick, but I haven't put that there. So all these are from the 20th century. Okay, and again, like with the previous list, these are no particular order. The first one is Winsburg, Ohio by Sherwood Anderson. I read this book recently. It is, in a sense, a series of short stories or vignettes about this town, Winsburg, Ohio. And these stories are sort of about the different inhabitants that live there. I really liked it. I'm hoping to read more of Anderson's work. I'd never really heard of Sherwood Anderson before. I literally just saw it in the library and I thought, oh, that looks kind of interesting. And I just picked it up. So I look forward to reading more Sherwood Anderson in the future. And we jump forward a couple of years, actually a couple of decades, to the book Stoner by John Williams. I read this about a couple of years ago, like actually with Winsburg, Ohio. I had never heard of the book, I'd never heard of the author, so I went into it really unknown. But like with Notes on the Scandal, it's kind of a little bit stayed with me, and it's actually a book that I've actually seen it in my library, and it's a book actually I really would like to reread again. So yeah, I would definitely put it in my top 5 of the 20th century novels. These 3 books are really fascinating, but they also are actually quite dark, so yeah. The first one is Requiem for a Dream. It is a book I read as a teenager, and let's just say it kind of introduced me to a sort of very interesting kind of world, sort of a world where it's basically about a group of people. It's basically about this guy his girlfriend and his friend, and they're all just trying to sort of get the American dream, I guess. And let's just say it all actually goes wrong for them in a big way. The book also features a lot about his mother, who is a very tragic figure in all of this. She herself is also chasing the American dream, and it goes badly for her. And so yeah, it's a very tragic story, yet I actually really liked it, and I found a lot of humanity in it, especially among like the 4 main characters, and how, you know, they're just trying to get the American dream, which I guess everyone wants, even us people in New Zealand. My second to last book is The Ecstasy Club by Douglas Rushkoff. Rushkoff is actually known more as a kind of media theorist, but this was his first novel, and I read it again actually along with Requiem for a Dream. I read it as a teenager. I was about 19, and I was sort of getting a little bit into the club scene myself, not as much as some of my friends, but I was kind of sort of dipping my toe into it a little bit. And basically this book is about these group of young people who find this sort of abandoned warehouse, and they turn this warehouse into just like an all 24/7, 7 days a week rave fest. And Ecstasy, if you don't know, was the big kind of rave nightclub drug in sort of the 90s, where like if you took it you could just party like all night long. And so it's actually a lot about that, and I actually really liked it. I really liked how as demented as it sounds, they really did have a dream. I've only read it once, so I haven't read it since I was 19, which is a few years ago, but in laws I would like to reread it again. I really loved it when I first read it. I thought it was amazing, but now that I'm a bit older, it would be interesting to see if I like it as much now as I did then. Okay, and the last book is probably the most controversial. It was controversial upon its release. I don't know if it's so controversial now. I think it's turned a little bit into a modern classic, but I will seriously give you a trigger warning about reading this book. And this book is American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. It's, as the title suggests, is about this psychopath living in America who goes on this killing spree in New York, basically. So it is about this man who is a serial killer in 1980s New York, who, like a lot of serial killers, has a fondness for killing prostitutes. And Now, while you're sort of maybe doubting, like, so why, I know you're thinking, why would Rebecca like reading this book? Why would anyone like reading this book? Well, I do like a little bit, I do like the crime mystery genre. I will say this isn't a mystery. You know who's done it. There could be a bit of a mystery as to why he's doing it, but this isn't really a mystery book at all. I just will say that. But the thing is with this book is that it is gruesome and it is horrifying in places. But before you kind of sort of think, Rebecca, why would you want to read a book like this? I mean, why? The reason why I picked up the book was because I was very curious about it, because I read all the sort of hoopla surrounding it, and it is, she says, when a book's controversial, it kind of makes you want to read it even more. But also the main reason I wanted to read this book is, the main point of this book is actually is a satire towards this sort of narcissistic, hedonistic, yeah, some could say psychopathic or borderline psychopathic nature of the 1980s, with the whole, like, you know, greed is good mentality and all that stuff. So it's actually a satire against that, and just against the whole vacuousness of 80s youth culture. You go into this book knowing that it's more satire than anything else. I think it gives you a more added layer to the book. But as I said, you can't get away from the gruesome scenes in the book, so I would definitely give anyone a trigger warning. But, you know, as a satire, I think it is a great book, and I think it'll always be one of my favourite books, because it was, I think, one of the first real grown-up books I read, and it was the first book that kind of introduced me to the whole genre of satire and how literature can be used for social commentary. Folks, that is the end of my video, the end of my top 5 English books and my top 5 American books of the 20th century. I will see you later.